always.
Oh yeah, right. Well, and we're gonna say peace and greetings. Good afternoon, good people. Welcome back to another moment with Purple. I am your hostess with the mostest, of course, Saj the Purple Blackwell, and today we are joined by our good friend, Brother Will Braveman Esquire.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Got my purples on, as you can see.
Yes.
Matching.
You're always
It was
so well
required.
prepared,
Try to be.
And we love that. And we are here on our new series called Why Vote, Why Now? We are having a primary election coming up. And it is very, very important that we know what's going on in our community. Who are the people in your neighborhood? Who are the people running for office? Who are the people who say they want to make change in the community? Can they? Will they? Do they really mean it? Do they really want to do that? So along the campaign trail, we have run into our beloved Will Braveman. And tell us, what are you running for?
I am running for a judge position in the Court of Common Pleas, the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, which is one of the trial court levels.
Okay. And so, as you know, our series is Why Vote, Why Now? So let's attack the first question. Why should people vote, and why should people vote for you or for any judge right now in the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah, so let's talk about the first one, why vote, why now? So voting is a way that you can impact public policy by voting for people whose policies that you support. The world that we live in just across the country is divided in many regards. It's an important time in our society, I think, for people to vote. Also, Philadelphia in particular, there have been just a ton of issues specific to Philly, from COVID to unrest to crime to lack of education to lack of services to homelessness, and lots of other issues that plague our city. And we have a beautiful, amazing city.
Yes.
And this is a chance for people to get out there and listen to some of the policymakers. We have a ton of city council candidates and mayor candidates, and they all have takes on these issues. So it's a really important time for people to go out and listen to what they have to say and vote on people who they feel represent their own philosophies as well and represent them as people. So it is a really important time to get out the vote. When I was driving over here at 38th and Lancaster, there was a guy playing the sax from the commissioner's office.
Right.
Everyone's doing what they can to get out the vote, whether it's just playing music on the street or knocking doors, people, or helping people get registered. You can go onto the city commissioner website and find out, are you registered? Where are you registered?
Right.
How do you register? It's an important time to vote. And in terms of your question, who I am and why vote for me, I'm running for a judge position.
Right.
And I have been an attorney for 26 years.
That's a long time.
It is, yes. So the first 2 years of my career, I was a law clerk for a Court of Common Pleas judge and then another Court of Common Pleas judge, which I'm now running for. So I have a bit of an understanding about the position.
Okay.
After that, I was a city of Philadelphia attorney for 12 years in what's called the law department or the solicitor's office, in the child welfare unit, mental health unit, and also in the labor and employment unit. Then after that, for the last 12 years, after I was at a small firm for about 18 months doing work on injured workers and representing their union workers, my boss subcontracted me to do all of the work on their unions. So I've been doing that for the last 12 years. I started my own practice. My boss subcontracted me, and I presently represent about 1,400 unionized City of Philadelphia employees.
Wow, that's a lot. Now, in the union law, why do people in unions need lawyers? What do I need a lawyer for if I'm in a union?
Great question. So if you get disciplined, you need a lawyer to help you fight that. If your union, your representatives, there's a grievance process where they appeal decision. And if that doesn't result in changing it, then you have the right to an appeal. And at that point, an attorney can assist you with that right. In the city, there's a panel that they go to called the Civil Service Commission, and I represent them at the Civil Service Commission. There are also other issues that come up for unionized employees, and they would include when they are exercising their rights to take sick time. They believe that there's some kind of law that's being broken with regard to their rights, whether it's discrimination, whether it's wages that they're not being paid fairly, whether it's their right to unionize, their right to select their own union. These are a lot of the issues that come across my desk that I help people address as a union attorney.
Wow, that's definitely loaded and a lot, And I think that a lot of times people don't even understand that even in your union, there are a team of lawyers who represent the union, people who help, mediate these types of situations, and sometimes have to go to court behind a lot of things at your job. And also that reminds me that, the city is also pushing out a new information campaign for people to know what your workers' rights are. That you have rights, whether you're under the table or, on the table, employees, that there's a lot of disinformation on what your rights are, paid leave, sick leave, all those kind of things. So you definitely want to get up on your knowledge about that. Visit, I think it's Philadelphia Labor something. Philadelphia Labor, just Google it and you'll find all the labor laws that they're really trying to push out and get people information for. And I think that, would you agree, Brother Will, knowledge is power in regards to what you know, what you can get upset about, maybe what like that?
Yeah, knowledge is definitely power, and I, on a regular basis, have consultations with people, and even free sometimes, where we just spend time talking to them about educating them on a process so that they can move forward on their own. A lot of times people don't know they have the right to file a discrimination claim for free in an agency without an attorney.
For free.
Okay. And there's the federal agency, the state agency, the local agency, which are the EEOC, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, and the Philadelphia Commission, respectively. They all have websites. And if you Google them, you'll find out their timelines and their forms, and they're set up to help like regular people without attorneys just move forward and file a claim if they believe they're being discriminated against. But yeah, knowledge is power. And here's what that really means. How it translates to, if you go to exercise your rights, sometimes that can help you avoid being taken advantage of. So you file a claim. Now you've got some leverage to either stay at the work or get back, or prevent discrimination. Sometimes if you don't file a claim, you don't have that knowledge, you're really gonna, make yourself more susceptible to being taken advantage of. So, knowledge is for sure power. And also, just so I'm not like skewing things too heavily on the employee side, because I'm trying to be fair to everyone. I think knowledge is important for employers too, to have knowledge about, what constitutes an illegal practice versus legal. And there are seminars that I've led, and continuing legal education classes that I've led, to where employers come and they want to know, hey, I just want to do the right thing. How can I do that? And, for them, knowledge is power too, because they want to be fair to people and they want to treat people right most of the time. And helping educate them really can help not just them move forward and do what they need to do to be a successful employer, but also protect the rights of the employees who work for them, and make sure that they're not like unfairly taking advantage of them.
Right. And a lot of times jobs do value their employees. And also when you think about it, because you're not always thinking about, the employee, the big guy, because a lot of times employees are small businesses, are Black and brown people who have businesses, are, small communities who have businesses. So we have to really look at it on both sides of the coin.
100%. Sometimes like a mom and pop shop will come to me and ask me about a certain issue, and we'll talk about it. And sometimes like a medium size, not mom and pop, like 5 employees, 10 employees, will come and talk to me. And, there are like employee handbooks that you can kind of copy and paste and pick what you like, that make sure you're, educated about treating your employees fairly. And that can be a valuable tool as well. But that knowledge, really can be powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowledge of the law, people. Knowledge. I think Jay-Z gave us the biggest game back in the day. You know what I'm saying? No, sir, you can't illegally search my car. Then we all became lawyers and really understood how important it was to know the law. So you want to be a judge here in the city of Philadelphia. You're a judge for Court of Common Pleas. How long?
10 years.
10 years.
That's a long time.
Judges are going in for 10 years. Tell us about that. Why should we vote for you and put you in there at 10 years? And for Black and brown people who already are, systematically dealing with racism in the courts, why would we want to put another white man, quote unquote, in a judge's robe?
So that's a great question, and absolutely I support diversity in the court system. It's one of the questions that I was asked about when I was being vetted for the Bar Association recommendation, and in a lot of wards, people have asked me a similar question. Diversity in our court system is absolutely necessary. Obviously, I am a white man, white male. Right. Most of the judges in the history of the Court of Common Pleas have been white males. Right. Okay, so they asked me, what are you going to do, Will Braveman, for diversity in the court system? Okay. So let me give you a couple of answers. Number one, I'm going to make sure that my staff, and by my staff, I mean my law clerks, and to the extent that I'm able to, my court staff, look like the people who come before our court. Okay, I might not, but I will be sure that my law clerks over a 10-year time span are diverse in race, in gender, in ethnicity, and to the extent that I'm allowed to suggest and make recommendations on court staff being in my court, because you can't always, sometimes it's just people that are assigned to you. Right. I do think it's important when someone walks into court, it's not just like all of one type of person, right? So that they feel comfortable, because
Philly, it doesn't look like that. Philly is a very diverse melting pot. It's a sanctuary city, is it not?
100%.
Right.
So that's one thing, right, that I want to do to make court more diverse. In terms of like, why should you vote for me, like a white male, another white male, right, to be a judge? Let me answer that question. I, in my career, fight against racism, fighting against discrimination. I have brought suits against the United States Marshal Service. On a race discrimination claim. I have brought a suit against a major bank, which settled. So I can't say who, but on a gender discrimination claim for my client who was unequally paid for years while male.
It's not Tesla, is it?
No, not Tesla.
Not
it's
Tesla.
A bank. It's a major bank.
Okay.
She was a loan officer. She was paid a lot less than the male loan officers. They kind of fed each other, the big cases. And we got her justice and a really nice result. I myself have created a employment anti-discrimination task force through the Bar Association. And our goal is to fight discrimination and racism, not just race discrimination, but all forms of discrimination, disability, gender, religion, many different forms of racism. It's important to me that all people, no matter where you're from, no matter what your category is, are human and are treated fairly. So on top of that, I've always believed that court is a very stressful place for witnesses, for parties, for court reporters, for anyone. And I don't care if you're any of those people, or if you're a maintenance man, or if you're a custodian, or you're an air conditioning worker, or whatever you may be. If you are in a court, everyone deserves respect. Everyone's a human, and things can get hot in court. Yeah. And you need someone to kind of keep the temperature cool and make things, in terms of the stress level, as low as possible. I'm a person who has experienced, as a mental health advocate, a lot of adverse court conditions. And when things get hot, I try to get, more cool and more relaxed.
Cool-headed, I guess that's the way you
cool-headed. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So yeah, in terms of like why vote for me, I care deeply about equity. In fact, my core values on my campaign are and equity. and equity is really important to me. So I can tell you that in terms of like why vote for me, because those are important issues to me. Even though I am a white male, I care deeply about all races. I've come out to your at 52nd Market, and I've come out to your community to talk to them about the mental health system.
And we were going to go into that next to talk some more about that. Not only has Will Braveman been very active and going around and trying, and because it's part of the political thing, you're campaigning, you're trying to get as many votes as you can. But throughout this process, he's actually also lent his expertise to some of our community meetings where we asked him not just about, being a court of common pleas judge or, union law, but also there's you practice other law in regards to what a family member, because a lot of us, in our family, in the Black family, we are dealing with mental health issues. We don't talk about mental health issues far enough at all, especially in the Black community. Although we are now becoming a more gentler society where conversations like this are now being welcomed, however, that's not always been so. And right now, a lot of our family members are caught up in and will be caught up in, or someone eventually is going to have to use a 302 system here in the city of Philadelphia. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences and why do more people need to know about what 302 is? And give us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, sure. Really important question. So my experience is that I've been an advocate in the mental health system for upwards of 20 years as a city attorney, and now as a actual representative for the patients themselves for the last 10 years as a private practitioner in the 302 system. So 302s, which many people have heard of, are also referred to as involuntary civil commitments.
Yes.
What that means is someone does something really dangerous and they need to go into a mental health facility so that they can get medication, treatment, so they can get therapy, so that they can kind of make a road back to stability, come out, and hopefully so they can get therapy.
Sorry, Renee, okay.
Make a road.
Okay. I thought I had some questions I need to answer, but people are tagging people on the post.
Yeah, no problem. I know you're multitasking.
Very important.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So 302 is the section of the law, section 7302. And what it means is someone is doing something dangerous. So say you have a family member and they are schizophrenic and they're hearing voices and they're acting out and they're doing dangerous things.
Right.
What do you do in that situation?
Right.
And how does the system work? So
because many of us, again, have had to use the button to call 911 to 302 people, whether you want to admit it or not.
It's true. And I want to talk to you about like using that button, when you use that button, and why, calling the police should certainly be a last resort, right? You never know when things are going to, turn in a wrong direction if the police are called.
Right.
So it's better to talk to someone and say, hey, you need treatment. Let's, some treatment. Let's get you to your primary care physician. Let's get you some medication tomorrow. Let's get you to a case manager who can look after you.
Right.
That's like the first thing you want to do. Then if that doesn't work, right, and things escalate, then you can call a mobile crisis unit in the city. And if you Google it, you'll find phone numbers, and they can come to you and, help talk to the person and try to kind of help manage the situation. If that doesn't work, if it's not an option, you can take your relative or your friend or whoever it is to a crisis response center. So there are a bunch, again, you can Google it, you can find where they are in the city. I think there are 6 in the city.
Okay.
And one is at Friends Hospital, where I'm one of the attorneys there.
Right, where you're currently regularly employed.
So Friends doesn't, just so we're clear, Friends doesn't employ me. The court system employs me. I am the equivalent of a public defender at Friends. The public defenders usually handle these cases, but because Friends was so far out of the city, they decided not to go there. So they hired 2 people, myself and one other, to do the defender cases at Friends. Okay. So the next step would be go to a crisis response center, have your friend there or your family, and ask them, what should we do? And sometimes people can agree to sign themselves in. That's called a 201. Okay. That's a voluntary form.
Voluntary. So unlike the 302, which is somebody who involuntarily is being subdued, and the 201 is somebody who voluntarily submits themselves to care.
Correct. And it's always better if people volunteer, because half of the process in understanding the problem is admitting that you have a problem, like with anything in life. So if they sign a 201 and they voluntarily themselves, then they usually a 7 to 10 day frame of treatment. Now, if they're in the hospital and the hospital feels that they need to continue to get treatment, then the hospital can file what's called a 302 and ask a judge to involuntarily commit them. And then that can be up to 20 days. And I say up to because usually it's still 7 to 10 days ish that they're in, but the order that the judge issues legally allows them to hold someone for up to 20 days. And then if they need more treatment, they can file what's called a 304 for up to 90. And then if they need more treatment, they can continue to file a 305 for up to 180 days, which is a very long time.
Very long time.
And then they can ask that they be transferred under a 306 to an extended acute unit. And I don't want people to get nervous that like once you sign a 201, you're like in that system down that road. The great majority of people, probably 80-85%, are 20 days or less, and they're out, and then they're getting treatment. So it's not like I don't want people to get nervous that when you enter the door, it's like you're stuck there. You know, for some people who need extended treatment, that can become true, and it's somewhere. My estimate is about 15 to 20% do eventually end up needing extended treatment. But for the rest of them, they're in and out. They get a case manager and they get some help. And so all of that is what you do before you call the police. Right. If you can't get them to go to a crisis treatment center, you can't get a mobile treatment to come out to them. You can't get them to agree to go to their primary care physician. If none of those things are working and someone's like actively suicidal, then it's time to call the police because you don't want them to hurt themselves.
So again, if you're just tuning in, we are currently talking to Brother Will BRAVEMAN, who is running for judge of city for a court of common pleas, which means that if elected, he for 10 years. And we're talking about mental health, mental illness, and mental health in regards to like a Walter Wallace. So we want to say, call the mobile unit, call these people. But like when Walter Wallace was shot by the police in 2020, when that was going on, and the family had many times called mobile crisis, they many times called the police. They've done these things. When it's like that, and then it's like that, and someone's charging around with a weapon, how would you have what are your advice to somebody in a Walter Wallace situation?
Well, I mean, first let me say what a tragic situation that was, and it sounds like the family followed a lot of what I had said, and I don't have answers for anything that a family in that position should do other than to kind of follow what I said. And it sounds like they did what they could and things escalated. And it's just, my heart goes out to that family. But unfortunately, I don't have answers to that specific situation. They did what they could to make the person, Mr. Wallace, get treatment. I don't want to second guess anything that family did and make them feel any sadder about they could have done this, that, or the other thing. It's
well,
just
then let's answer it in this way. And thank you. So, young lady says that that was around the corner from her house, and she will never forget the screams and cries of the mother. So those officers, although the mother was screaming and crying not to shoot her baby, then still went ahead and shot him. Are these the types of cases that will come in front of you?
No, those are not the types of cases that come in front of me. The types of cases that come in front of me sometimes do involve the police, but when you're talking about someone who is unfortunately and tragically killed, so that person wouldn't then get it before me because they've unfortunately been killed. So
Right.
I wouldn't see that. The kinds of cases that come before me would be someone who's still alive and in need of treatment.
Okay.
And that case,
So if a cop shot and the person was shot, but they didn't die, but they're still alive.
yeah, in theory, that could come before me. It never has.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're elected to be judge.
Oh, if I'm elected to be judge, it's possible that that could come before me either in the civil or criminal context.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is possible.
Right. And then how do you feel like, are you prepared to handle a situation like that? Do you feel like as judge, you're going to be able to be fair, equal, just, like those words, they exist in your courtroom when it comes to cops maybe, prematurely shooting people and killing people lethally with their weapons? Like, give me something. What do you think?
Yeah, well, anytime someone has been killed, it is a very grave situation. And, people, whether they're white, black or brown, whatever the color of their skin may be, whatever gender they may be, they all have the right to equal treatment, and if you're talking about a shooting or, there was a study that was done on police response time that showed unequal response times. It's a very unfortunate situation in our city. And certainly as a judge, I don't have the authority to control response times around the city.
Right.
But I can certainly listen to the individual to the case, try to be fair to both sides, try to listen. A jury would probably at the end of the day make a decision on that case, and I would try to keep the playing field even. The analogy that I make is to umpires calling balls and strikes.
Okay.
There's a lane within which judges really have to stay. But let me kind of answer your question more specifically by saying that no one deserves to be killed because of the color of their skin,
right? Or their mental health,
or their mental health, in a way that's them being treated differently or being discriminated against because of their mental health. Understanding at the same time there are certain safety concerns that the police have that they need to meet out. There's like a balance that's very sometimes difficult, to strike. Right. And Mr. Wallace's circumstance is just such a tragedy, and my heart goes out to the family and this person who made a comment that she'll never forget the screams.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Imagine.
That's a trauma right there.
Yeah.
Just to hear that, and like for the rest of your life, you're like every time you are in certain situations, you might have PTSD. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like.
Speaking of which, in regards to gun violence, and again, if you were elected judge, there's an election going on, people. The election is May 16th. Who are you? What's your ballot number? You have a ballot number and all that?
I do. Thanks for asking. So my ballot number is number 1717.
17.
Yep.
And then when it comes to gun violence, and a lot of our babies will be in front of you. For various reasons, Black and brown individuals who are already systematically dealing with, racism to the highest levels of which, when it comes to gun violence, what are your thoughts on restorative justice measures and the like?
Yeah, so there have been a lot of ideas floated about victims and perpetrators of crimes having a dialogue, right, to do a number of things. So number one, to kind of make the perpetrator of a crime more aware of the practical impact that his or her actions had on the victim, on the victim's family, on whoever it might be, because a lot of times a perpetrator might only see their own story. They might not understand the story of others whose lives they've impacted. In having that dialogue, it can heal. It can heal the perpetrator and make them more aware. Right. It can heal the victim by giving them an outlet to, just vent and to explain to someone, see that person rehabilitating in their process. So that's a part of restorative justice that is something that's interesting.
Right.
I think that judges who are sensitive to mass incarceration being a real problem in our society are looking at restorative justice more seriously and considering measures like that. And I think that that's a good thing. But again, there's also a need to balance with safety for society. We're not necessarily saying restorative justice replaces, the need to sometimes keep society safe on, very violent crimes. That again, it's a balance that needs to be kind of managed by judges. But I think that, there are where hey, if things are nonviolent, this person doesn't need to be in jail.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that's really the bottom line of what a lot of RJ, restorative justice theorists and people are pushing. There are other ways to deal with harm and restoring and making sure that harm is being fixed, repairing the harm, especially when it's nonviolent. There's other ways than to lock them up. Like the key is not just to lock everybody up. And there are definitely some instances in violent crimes where people do need to be locked up, point blank, period. But there are other instances where people do not need to be locked up, and that there are other ideas, i.e. restorative justice measures, to be thought of and to be had. And then especially when it comes to mental health, I am definitely a strong advocate of mental health, because I have a son who suffers from mental health. And I realize that I'm fearful for his life every single day, just because he's misunderstood in community. So living with that and knowing that there's many, many families out there living with these issues and how we deal with it, and where's the help? Especially when it gets to, unfortunately, a judge because someone misunderstood them. Now they're locked up, now they have to sit in jail because they try.
Yeah, one of the things that our city and our police department already agree on is the need for training and sensitivity as to mental health illness.
Yes.
And there's a kind of training called, I believe it's called CERT training, Crisis Emergency Response Training, is I think that what it stands for. And the concept is that officers and people who are first responders to mental health crises are trained in de-escalation as well as sensitivity. So when you come up on a situation like Mr. Wallace, you have an understanding of, like, we have to cut this person a break because they have a mental illness. We have to be sensitive to that. And again, it's always scary if you're a police officer, if someone has a gun, but at the same time, if you have that CERT training, you can de-escalate. And I think that there's no one size fits all training. It's an evolving kind of thing where you really need to, as the times change your training. And when you have, I think for so many people, mental illness is something that has touched our lives or our families' lives. And the concept that the people who are responding to that need to be really on the cutting edge of whatever training is the most effective. It is a really important concept to bear in mind. And the city's agencies, in my experience, working with them, do try to do that. But it's just, people need to bear in mind just how overflowing with these problems our city is, and how strapped and how stressed the system is. It can't serve the volume and the severity of the problems which exist with the present funding, right? And the present staffing. And we may never be able to get there to a point where we have enough. But that's for like city council and our budget directors and our mayors to, review that. And in meeting this group of candidates that I've had an opportunity to get to know, and hear some of the things that they talk about, it's really heartening to see how genuine they all are. And there are so many candidates.
Yes,
At one
so
point, it was like
many.
in the 40s.
Yes, it's like 29 now. I think we
Yeah.
went down to 29 for city council at large and all these wonderful
and they
judges.
care.
Yeah, they
You
do,
know, they
for
really
sure.
they're out there talking about things, and they care deeply, and they're doing research and understanding these issues. And you know, as a mental health advocate, I'm listening to what they're saying
Right.
with a whole different ear.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, they've educated themselves, just like I've tried to educate myself on criminal justice reform, because I'm not a criminal law practitioner,
Right.
but I need to know about these things if this is
Yes.
an office I'm seeking,
Amen.
as they need to know about these things if this is an office they're seeking. So
yes, you love to hear it. You love to hear that, right?
yeah, to your point of like why vote and who you vote for,
Right.
you know, these are the kinds of things. If mental health is important to you,
Yes.
listen to those candidates who
Yes.
are talking about mental health, and go out to forums, ask them questions.
Yes.
You know, they want to answer questions. That's what they do. You know, as a candidate myself, I like when people ask me tough questions
Right.
on things that I don't know about, because it lets me know, hey, I need to know about that. You know, and then I go and I learn about that. The good candidates do.
Right,
I
right.
think.
The good candidates push themselves, educate themselves, because as we said in the beginning, knowledge is power. Point blank, period. So again, we are here talking to our beloved Will Braveman. Tell them where they can follow you at. Again, what your number is.
Yeah, thank you. So my number is 17 on the ballot. And there are 10 endorsed candidates running for 16 positions.
Wow.
And
10 for
so,
16.
yep, there are 10 slots that are open.
Right.
And they can find me on my socials at BRAVEMAN4Judge. Sometimes it's the number 4, sometimes it's the word 4, depending on which social you're on. But that's where they can find me on social media. And it's been a pleasure being here today.
Yes, absolutely. You know how we do. Well, this is a part of our wonderful series about educating the voters and educating the people on why to vote, who's out there to vote, and why to vote now. You actually can send in your mail-in ballots right now as we speak. Mail-in ballots can be sent in. You can vote today. So why not vote today? You know, especially if you know who you're going to vote for. Those people have like minds as yours, your thoughts, your theories, and you feel like they can fight for you the best. Vote today by voting by mail. Otherwise, you can vote at the polls on May 16th.
You got it. May 16th. That's the day.
That's today. So thank you for joining us on another Moment with Purple. And remember, where there is no vision, a people perish. Keep the faith, baby. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.